Welcome to Mary Walter Radio, the live cast, unless, of course, you are watching delayed or listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Spreaker, in which case it is Mary Walter Radio, the podcast. Please, if you've not done so, please subscribe. I appreciate that so much. And please hit the thumbs up button. It's amazing. Like hundreds of people will watch this, and then, on Getter, for whatever reason, on Getter, we're breaking over 1,000 live views, and then they get more later. A lot of people like to watch delayed, and I'll get like 11 thumbs up. It really doesn't help the algorithm. People, do you not know how this works? You got to just please humor me. Just hit the thumbs up. I would appreciate that. That would be fantastic. Also, I will be on Newsmax. Maybe Thursday or Friday. It's supposed to be on tomorrow, but with the thing going on with Iran, it's so up in the air, and I get booked and then we get bumped, and a lot of stuff's happening. So I can't imagine until this is over, I'll be booked a whole lot on Newsmax. You won't see me a whole lot there. But Thursday or Friday, sometime in the 3:00 hour, I will post it. And on Monday, I will be in New York City going in, just to test that whole terrorist thing. And I will be on between 10 and noon as a special guest. So I'll be on and off and on and off and on and off between 10 and noon. Big hugs to Zachy, who is our #1 fan, hence the name The Queen. I cannot change that because Zach insists that I use that. So there you go, Zach. That we do that. And for Zach's dad, Evie, who does all of our promotion, like all of our the graphics is what EB does. So this handsome man sitting right here next to me is Daniel Turner. He is the founder and CEO of Powering the Future. You can find him at poweringthefuture.com. Daniel Turner, PTF on X, if you would like to follow him. And I highly suggest you do, because there is so much to talk about. And I was thinking about, last weekend we had Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer last Tuesday. And I said, what can we do that ties in with Iran and everything that's happening, but isn't military? And I was like, oh, Daniel Turner. And I've gotten to interview him twice on a Kilmeade show. I couldn't remember if it was Kilmeade or Webb, but it was Kilmeade. And Daniel's so much fun. He's so easygoing, and he makes it easy for everybody to understand. So without further ado, Daniel, welcome to Mary Walter Radio. It's great to have you.
What an intro. I'm flattered. Thank you. It is great to be here with you.
All right, let's see who's here. We do this at the beginning of each podcast to see the regulars who's here, while Bill, Rebecca, Patrick is he's in a meeting, but he's watching anyway. Yitzhak, welcome to our queen and the energy guy. Ron and the cat are back. Watching Your Back is here. I know, sound. You guys, you should be used to this by now, because it happens at least every other podcast where I screw up with the sound. I'm a one-man band. I don't have people. When I can afford people, then maybe things like that won't happen. But until then, I don't have people. And I just did a TV hit every Tuesday, by the way, usually about 5:15. I'm on the Todd Starnes Show on Newsmax, but on N2. So if you don't have N2 on your carrier, you go to YouTube and look for a Newsmax 2 Live. And I do a segment with Kay Smith Hill, and she's hilarious, and we have so much fun. So that's why I lately have been cleaned up, and you haven't seen me in a sweatshirt with my hair in a baseball cap or anything like that. I actually clean it up a little bit for TV. So there you go. Let's see. Joseph Ricciani's here. Clay teacher B8C. That's new. That's a new one. Timu, he says. Yitzhak says, so are you going to be giving stock tips? Yeah, I don't think that's where that is. Mike McVie wants to know, where is the IT guy? Okay, so the IT guy is my husband. So he handles all the IT problems, the lighting, the things goes out. The IT guy rides to the rescue. So he is not there. Mary has no people. Sounds like the local GOP candidates. So let's tell everybody, poor Daniel is sneezing and sniffling up a storm. You poor thing. What happened? What did you do?
Well, in addition to running Power of the Future, I have a sheep farm. I live in Shenandoah, Virginia, and it is lambing season, and our barn was just an absolute disaster. We've had, I think 60 or 70 births, and we're only about a third of the way there. So after my last TV hit, which was 4, I put on filthy clothes and I ran to the barn and I tried to strip it and put down the new bedding. and just all the straw just sitting in the hayloft. It was just dusty. And as I was putting it down, I was hearing myself say, "This is not going to be good for Mary's show in an hour." But I had to do it. I had to do it. The girls needed clean bedding. There'll probably be 6 or so that are born tonight.
Oh
And
my
they
gosh.
needed good beds. So sorry for the sniffling.
No, listen, I am the queen of allergies. I'm allergic to my entire environment. I'm probably like someone who has defeated Darwinism for some weird reason. But when I'm doing stuff like that, I put a mask on. Like when I'm vacuuming in the house because the dust makes me sneeze and will get me all stuffy like that, I put a mask on. I look like a liberal on a subway, you know. We were
But you can take
speaking
it
of
off to eat though, right? So you just remember.
yes, yes. Well, we wear them for different reasons. So this is why the podcast goes in all different directions. So today, I took my friend out for brunch for her birthday, and she loves to go to diners. We love to go to diners, and I live in the diner capital of the world, and so we went to this diner that had been the owners were closing it. They did it for 25 years, and it's on the 3334 circle. And it's one of the classic old subway train car diners.
Oh, those are great.
So the doors all open like this. You have to slide the door to open it and then slide it shut once you're in, because they were between the cars. Those were the ones between the cars. That's how you get in and out. And it's got the old counter and the old tile, and it's got a big honking jukebox. Actually, I'll post pics next week because I didn't download them to do it today. And they have a big, huge jukebox, and you can put the money in, and it plays. And they've got the old machine to make the shakes, you know. And it was actually on the cover of one of Bon Jovi's albums.
Oh wow!
I have to, yeah, well, because Bon Jovi's a Jersey boy, and Bon Jersey Diner album cover.
I grew up in Queens, and diners were not as prevalent as Jersey, but still very much a diner world. And I still remember the booths that had their own individual little jukebox where you could, play. They only had about 20 or 30 selections, but you could just choose music for your booth. And I have great memories of going with my dad after baseball practice as a kid. That was our little tradition, because you had to get up Saturday, you had to play baseball, and then he would take me to the diner. So I grew up loving diner breakfasts.
Yep, exactly. So it's his greatest hit. I think it's his greatest hits. No, but that doesn't look like it. But there's one of his album covers has this particular diner, the Roadside Diner, on it, or they posed in front of it for a photo shoot for something, but they haven't changed it. And the couple that was retiring, Greek, of course, and it's not authentic because it's not a Greek diner. And the most uncomfortable diner seats I've ever sat in, though. They were really uncomfortable. And you walked in and it was like Americana. There were 2 cops sitting in one booth, and there's a guy with like tattoos, and then like 4 other guys came in. There's construct, and it's just such a piece of Americana. So we're so blessed to be able to have those. So I was doing that with her today, and I forgot why I was telling this story. We were going off on a tangent about sitting at the diner.
Allergies.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I know. So I see this lady walking in and she's going to open the diner. So I'm facing the door that she was coming in, one of the side doors. She's coming in, and I see her. She's got black plastic gloves on and a napkin or a paper towel in her hand to open the door.
Oof, that's a tough
and then
one.
she came in and she closed the door with gloves and a paper towel.
That's tough.
And I was like, I look at that. Yeah. I just look at that and go, okay, she's got a problem. It is what it is. So I felt badly for her, but all right, let's see what people say here. Suze is here. I heard Daniel on 1210 WPHT yesterday. The sheep were talking to us too.
That was one of the funniest radio shows I ever did. I actually was in the process. There were some breech twins, and I couldn't leave the barn. Mom needed some time. So I washed my hands really quickly, and I made the phone call, and I apologized. I said, you're going to hear sheep in the background, but I have to keep an eye on this, because I would have hung up the phone. No offense to the radio hosts, if the mom was in trouble. I mean, this is your job as a farmer, right? I mean, these are your livestock. You have a huge responsibility.
Whose show was it?
It was. I would need to look at my phone really fast. I did 14 radio shows yesterday and
Well,
4
about what
TV shows.
time? About
Um,
what time?
it was around 6:20 p.m. If you give me, actually, well, you were just looking at your. If you give me 2 seconds, I can look at my phone really quickly, and I can tell you
Huh.
exactly who it was. It was
This is weird.
Tony Bruno's show.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can hang up on him. That's fine. Okay,
um,
so for some reason, for those of you on Getter, this is Greg says on Getter, the content is current. The title says Mary Walter Radio. It's Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer. I've refreshed and everything. Yeah, I don't know why it says that. I don't know what happened there with Getter. I don't know why
it's
it
a
says
great
that. I
rank.
wonder
I'll
if
take it, Lieutenant Colonel.
yeah, but it
Yeah.
is the correct. It is the right guest. This is playing the right one. And see on YouTube it says Daniel Turner. And on Rumble, it says Daniel Turner. So I don't know what happened with Getter. I don't know. So yeah, let me just see. Yeah, I don't know why that is. Can I change that? I don't know why I can't change that. All right. Well, it is Daniel Turner. I promise. I swear that's really him.
If you want to poke around, can I make a quick analogy between COVID, going back to your mask story and what I do with Power of the Future? The organization battles the climate left, the environmental left, on behalf of American energy workers, which really started because of the war on coal promulgated by Barack Obama. I started the organization because I got fed up of seeing coal miners whose lives and livelihoods were just destroyed in little towns across Appalachia. And if anyone saw Joe Burrow's Heisman Trophy speech, he talked about how poor Southeast Ohio was. And in his short lifetime, 5 or 6 huge coal mines closed, and thousands, I mean, 10 or 12,000 people were fired. And so anyway, that was the impetus of Power of the Future. And to battle the climate left, we obviously talk about climate change and the climate fear and climate anxiety. And I often say that COVID was a little microcosm of what the climate left has been doing for 50 years. There is insane amount of fear. You are going to die right now. There is a denial of alternative viewpoints, right? You're not allowed to question masks. You're not allowed to question social distancing. You're not allowed to question greenhouse gases. You're not allowed to question whether or not fossil fuels pollute, et cetera, et cetera. And if you do, you're deplatformed. You're called a denier, right? There's their set of scientists who they pay, who are exalted, whether it's Anthony Fauci or whether it's Michael Mann on the climate side. So there's a lot of the same nonsense. And then obviously the solutions, which don't work. Wind and solar don't work. Masks and social distancing don't work. And then the ultimate proof that they're the kind of the same mentality are the exemptions, right? Gavin Newsom ran a private jet for climate conferences, just like Nancy Pelosi can get her haircut during COVID, because if you are powerful enough, the rules don't apply to you. And so I've often 100%. Made this comparison. I speak at YAF a lot, the Young Americas Foundation. And so it's high school and college kids. And I'll walk them through the 5 steps of how what we saw during COVID. So every time I think of masks and COVID, I think of the people I battle in the climate space and their absolute insanity and deep adherence to their religion, whether it's germophobia or whether it's climate change.
Yeah. The germophobia thing, I feel badly for those people. You know, I mean, I grew up where the 4-H fair was the biggest event ever in our area. So, you know, we were the kids. And I also grew up in the generation where there was no such thing as hand sanitizer. And my mother would like scream at us to wash our hands because we've been out all day with sheep and goats, because the neighbor had sheep that cut their lawn and somebody else had a goat that would always wind up on our front porch when it got out. And, you know, they had a horse. Like, I just grew up in that environment. So we would go out and play with animals. We'd be in the backyard. We would leave for 8 hours a day and eat berries and stuff. My mother was never worried about us apparently being fed. And, you know, I think that our immune systems are actually better because of it, but I can't imagine being that afraid. But again, I think that's a phobia. And for some people, like I'm claustrophobic, wildly claustrophobic. Like I seriously will walk on your head if you're in my way and I need to get out. Like I have no qualms about taking you down, and I will have the strength of like 10,000 people and I'll take you down. And I'm, you know, if you're in my way. So I get it. I understand it, but it's sad. And you're right. There is such a double standard. So,
Yeah.
okay, I want to get into the wind and solar thing because I live in the People's Socialist Republic of New Jersey,
Yeah.
and we did the whole solar thing and what's happening here with energy. But before I get there, I want to talk about something that just happened,
Okay.
and that is the daylight savings time craziness. So, does that affect, like, does that cost us anything power wise? Like, does that, I don't even know if it's a legit question, but I was thinking about it because it affects everything, right? It seems to screw us up. Springing ahead is worse than falling behind. And half the country wants to stay on one time, half the country wants to stay on the other. So we do nothing, and we
Yeah.
just do this stupid exercise all the time. Does it actually cost us any money when it comes to like power with this?
Probably not, because
Okay.
our electric consumption has obviously very peak moments. We consume more electricity at nighttime, because that's when you are, and especially in the winter when you're home, you're
Right.
running your heating. If you're, for example, at nighttime in summer, you're putting on the AC because you want to sleep, etc. So people could say, I'm trying to think now. Well, what if the daylight savings, the clock shift? But the sun is going to set at the exact same time, whether we call that 7 or whether we call that at 8. I guess doesn't make a huge difference in terms of what the sun is going to do to the solar panels. Could you make the argument that maybe if we think in our mind it's actually 8, but it's really 7, are we using less energy? But I think that's
Okay.
actually negligible. I think the larger question is, though, why would we ever want an energy grid that is based on something like the wind and the sun? Because we're always going to have night, no matter how hard we try. We're always going to have night, and we never know when we're going to have wind. And that's the problem with wind, is there are places in the world, in America too, where no doubt it is very windy, but there are moments where the wind is not blowing, and yet our
Sure.
electricity needs are the same. So what makes up the delta? And in that delta is huge costs. In that delta is exorbitant pricing, is spikes in our utility bill, because you have to find electricity from somewhere. And when the supply is low and the demand is high, the laws of economics tell us the price goes through the roof, and that's where we are.
Yeah. So you have Abigail Spanberger, who's a Jersey girl,
Yeah,
and we
you
have
can
the
have her back.
helicopter. Well, no, because we've got the girl from Virginia, but she's a helicopter pilot. So, there's that. I don't know what either one of them stands for. We call ours Vanilla Harris because she's actually more boring than Kamala Harris. At least Kamala Harris was interesting to watch. This one is like watching paint dry, and she has nothing to say
Hmm.
except that she was a helicopter pilot. So the Democrats in New Jersey under Phil Murphy, Lord deliver us. They went for the whole wind thing off the Jersey coast. We're going to do the wind. We're going to do the wind because let me tell you, we get crazy winds here. I mean, it is windy here
Yeah.
all the time. It is an amazing phenomenon, and I don't remember it being this windy. Like it seems to in the last couple of years gotten windier. I guess maybe it's just climate change, and so we were going to do that, and Democrats were so sure that that was going to work that they decommissioned, not just decommissioned, but destroyed, made sure that you could not bring them back online, 2 nuclear power plants, I want to say like 5 coal plants, and
Hmm.
destroyed them. So you just can't go in and flip the switch and get your coal power back or your nuclear power back. They would have to be totally rebuilt, and they did that before they had another source to make up for it because they're smarter than we are.
Yeah.
And now President Trump, from what I understand, has put the kibosh on all the offshore wind because it messes with the radar of the planes or something, and it kills bald eagles. And of course, all of when they were drilling, all of the sea life that was winding up on our shores dead because
Yeah.
they're screwing up their sonar. So all of that being said, you just said solar and wind doesn't really work, but aren't there countries that do use solar and wind very effectively?
No, not one.
Oh, there aren't.
No, there are countries that use solar and wind, but does it work? And by work, I have two very clear definitions of what work means. One is that it actually is cost efficient for the ratepayers, and two is that it makes a more reliable grid. And there's not a country on earth where their electricity prices are actually lower or even just stayed the same compared to when they had a fossil fuel economy and their grid is more stable, or at least just as stable. So no, that's the entire fallacy of it. And yet they continue down this path. You look at the UK, which is now paying 4 times what we do for electricity. In the last decade, that's happened because they have done the same. They have shut down all coal. Coal is now banned in the UK. If anyone watched the show Poldark, I mean, the Industrial Revolution, which was born in Britain, came from coal from Cornwall, England, right? It used to be the coal capital of the world. It still has a lot of coal. England has a lot of natural gas and oil too in the North Sea, but they're not allowed to use it for climate crisis. So what do? They pay a small fortune. I got asked this question the other day. I was on Fox News and Dagan McDowell asked me this, and she said a state like Texas will say that they get 40% of their electricity from wind. Isn't that an example of how it's winning? It's a success. But my response is, compared to what? What if they were getting 0% of wind and they were all natural gas, because it's the natural gas capital of the world, and they were paying 40% less in electricity bills, right? So you can get to a fake metric like 40% of our electricity comes from wind, but at what cost, right? How many hundreds of thousands of acres of land are never going to be able to be used again because they're covered in these crappy equipment? And how much have we subsidized? The millions, hundreds of billions of dollars that we've subsidized for this industry to say it works. Right. So no, they're total failures. And anyone who says we need all of the above energy, nope. No, we don't. We don't need things that don't work.
And wasn't Texas also a couple of years ago, they got a big freeze and none of the wind turbines would turn because they were frozen, and they wound up freezing. And those Texans are not built for cold. I mean, they don't have it in them. You know, like here in Jersey, I'm like, I'll just put another jacket on and I'll be fine. I'm used to more cold weather. They freeze up apparently when it's really cold.
And 246 people froze to death, and no one rioted. No one built them a statue. No one knelt in protest, right? These are 246 people. If I can get kind of like a little emotional about it, these are 246 people who died at the hands of the state, because the state said, we are going to embrace Republicans, by the way. If you ever think that energy isn't bipartisan stupidity, the state said, we know better than thermodynamics and electricity, and we know better. We know better than Thomas Edison and Tesla, Nikola Tesla, right? We know how to make this work. And when it didn't, 246 and they're poor, faceless, nameless, powerless. If it was the governor's son who froze to death, there would have been a change. But they were mostly poor, mostly brown. And everyone's like, oh, isn't that sad? Isn't that sad? That's the evil of embracing something like the climate cult, where people die and we just say, well, that's just a necessary, just like we do with immigration, right? Necessary casualties on the altar of liberalism.
Hold on.
Wow, we got heavy fast, Mary, didn't we? Holy cow.
No, but you know what? There were, I think there were like 10 people who died in New York during that really, really cold snap that we had, because Zohran Mamdani made it illegal to bring them into shelters. If they want to stay out and freeze, they can. Which
19.
I'm kind of like, if you want to stay out and freeze, you can. Like, I don't have time to, say, I can't save everybody. So I kind of get that. But at the same time, there's a lot of people who can't make their own decisions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I figured out how to edit the Getter one, so people who are looking
edit
for
something I said. I was like, I didn't drop an F-bomb yet, did I? I think I'm pretty good about that. Yet, I said yet. But this is the problem with with wind and solar, and why I think the climate left hates the fossil fuel industry, because it is the last great industry that is in the hands of the private sector. Right. Think about when you go get gas, and gas prices are high, and we'll get there. But when you get gas, you're not going to a government run gas station. In fact, you've got a lot of different choices. And if you're in a busy area like where you are, not where I am so much in Shenandoah, but when I drive to DC to do some door knocking on Capitol Hill, gas stations left and right popping up. You have options. When it comes to the electric grid, though, if the government is in control with the wind and solar, then they decide your electric bill, your electric consumption. They decide whether or not you're going to have power. That's why these efforts to say no gas, talking about Virginia, no gas powered leaf blower. You have to use electric, which, by the way, on my farm is kind of hysterical to think I'm going to get an electric weed whacker to do like 4 miles of fence posts. But I rely on the government to charge it. Right now, I rely on the government to. Gavin Newsom was telling people
Right, right.
simultaneously, don't charge your electric vehicle because the grid can't sustain it. Oh,
So
by the way,
right.
the place is on fire. Get the hell out before you die. Well, I don't know. Which one is it? Right? I
Right.
didn't charge my
Right.
car as a good, faithful servant of the state. Now you're telling me to escape. WTF, Mary? That's
I
why
know.
I hate this agenda as much as well.
Yeah, it's a double because I when people always say that, well, I'm buying an electric car, and I'm like, oh, how do you charge it? I plug it in. I'm like, and how is electricity generated? And then their brains explode
Yeah.
because they think that there's a unicorn back there and it just farts all the time, and that's what makes their car go. You know, they
Yeah.
have no concept of how. I'm like, well, it's either coal generated or nuclear generated, or sometimes water. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's they use water to generate. Like
Hydro. Yeah.
Hi, thank you.
Yep.
I'm at that stage, and I didn't take my Prevagen today. So, yeah, sometimes hydro. So electricity just doesn't come out of the air. But
Yeah.
it's so clean. I'm like, is it? I said, how clean do you think those coal plants are in China and India, etc., compared to ours? All
Yeah.
right, let's get to some questions here. Joseph did note that better than being on the cover of a Springsteen album when I was talking about the cover of Bon Jovi. So Yitzhak says, I'm getting serious now. NEPA is about to be revised. I'm an NEPA guy, damn tree huggers. What will the citizens lose from shortening the permitting processes? Do the federal revisions apply to state NEPAs? I don't know what an NEPA is. Could you please explain?
That's NEPA, which is usually like they kind of give it a acronym.
Right.
They give it a name, and that's the National Environmental Protection Act. So this is what bore the
Okay.
EPA in the Nixon administration. And there's probably, I wasn't alive. I'm old, but I was born in the next administration, right? I was born in '74. There was definitely a need for environmental stewardship, right? When I was a kid, it was very common still to throw your trash out the window. People like Joe Biden talk about how you could run your finger across the windshield of the car in Scranton because there was so much soot. If that's true, and I'm going to believe, I'm going to believe Joe Biden, then look how much we've come, right? That's
Right.
awesome. So, but NEPA, the problem with NEPA is that it is very, very big, and it is very vague. And when I say big, it is probably more than hundreds of thousands of pages. It is millions of pages of statutes, not codified by law. It's regulation. It's things like, what is a greenhouse gas? So when the Trump administration wants to roll that back, all they're saying is, hey, look, if Congress wants to say methane is bad, then Congress needs to define it, and they need to tell us how much is bad and what's the rule. If Congress just says, we think things are bad and we're going to let the EPA administrator decide what that bad is, well, when you get Michael Regan, who was the Biden administration's EPA, he says everything is bad. And that's why you had gas prices through the roof. Trump's administration with the great Lee Zeldin is shutting that down very, very narrow and saying, if you're angry, right, if you want this to be regulated, just pass a law. Piece of cake, right? It's so easy. And they have huge environmental advocates in the Senate. So Sheldon Whitehouse, Ron Wyden, they can all pass a law tomorrow to say, what is the greenhouse gas and how many parts per million should it be? But none of them want to do that, right? The left hates laws. The left loves bureaucracy and the state and the regulatory body, because in that gray is whittling and stealing and maneuvering. If the law is right, look at DACA. If you came in illegally, you have to get deported, unless, of course, you were this age and you came. What is that? That's regulation. And that is so getting rid of NEPA, you can't really get rid of it, but narrowing NEPA will bring order and regulation to these industries. That was a long answer.
I think,
sorry.
but more defined. Listen, you're a farmer, you deal with the government on a daily basis, so but more defined, so I don't have to guess exactly what, like it is A or it's B. Like this is what it is. And I think we all want more of that. Okay, Artist here. Hello, my queen. Hello, my ITG BFF. So Artist having a bromance with my husband, the ITG. The ITG, that's the IT guy. Sal is here late. Let's see. Yitzhak says, "Go West Hempstead." Grew up with the lantern on Hempstead Turnpike, 4 a.m. after the Fillmore. So that's for you.
I grew up in Queens. I know West Hempstead. That's great.
Todd's here. He says he's late. Let's see. Kate is here from Ireland. Thank you, Kate. Let's see.
Love Ireland.
Rick says the climate is changing for the worst. It's getting pretty dry here in Edna Mojave Desert. Well, but the climate changes. I mean, wasn't the Sahara once a lush? It was like a lush rainforest. So it changes. I mean, during the Ice Age, this part of the world was covered in ice that was miles thick, right?
Mhm.
So were humans with their SUVs? Are they the reason that the polar ice caps retreated during the Ice Age? No, of course not, right? So the maybe getting drier in some parts of the country, but I don't to think that humans can control that, I think is pretty egotistical. To have the hubris to think that you can control nature is hilarious. What do you think?
I agree, and I don't think it's not a yes no question, right? It's if you know your Aristotle and you know your induction versus deduction, right? A deductive question is true or is judged by true or false veracity. An inductive argument is weak or strong. So when people like, is there climate change? It's not yes or no. It's how much is there? What it's a spectrum. Are humans causing it? How much? It's a spectrum, and that's where the argument is. And this is where I love having healthy conversations about climate change, because we should have it. But normally when we have really angry issues, climate, immigration, abortion, it's like yes or no. You ever watch when people testify? And I have had to testify several times. Yes or no, Mr. Turner? It's like that's not a yes or no question, Congressman. And you get so frustrated. It's like yes or no. You know, the sun is going to rise tomorrow. I mean, well, that's inductive. If you want me to say yes, I guess that probably is safer. I don't know if the sun's going to rise tomorrow, right? Yes or no, marry as a woman. Yes. That's deductive, right? Congratulations. So when it comes to the climate issue, is it changing? Of course. What degree is human? And then if we agree that humans are impacting it, to what degree is offsetting that impact destroying humanity? And that's where I have my fights, because Joe Biden had 4 years to offset what he thought was our impact on human impact on the climate. And look at what it did. Look at what it did to prices. Look at what it did to energy prices. Look at what it did to making Russia and Iran very, very rich, and China very, very rich, right? Look at what it did to, so then do we want to continue in this direction? Yes or no? I mentioned England. Germany's been doing this for 30 years. Their economy is in full contraction, right? Like not just
yeah, they're a mess.
Because this is what 30 years of fighting this nebulous, ethereal, we have to battle the climate. So my argument to that is, how far do we want to go? You see people, I shouldn't say I cursed her, because that's an awful thing to say. But when the monkey lady, the lady who taught the chimpanzees how to play the violin, when she died, I wrote a scathing Jane Goodall wrote a scathing op-ed about her. I was going to
say Jane Goodall.
She wanted to return to 17, and she said, like, we as a society should be returning to the 1700s population to save the planet. Fine, Jane, why don't you off yourself? Who are the 5 billion people that should die? Right? Who should get put down? Who should get sterilized? You know, and if you're not going to have the courage to say that, then you can't say we should return to this. No. Start with you, lady. So that's where I get very emotional, is at how much pain do we want to how many more sub-Saharan slave children have to work in cobalt mines so that China can have solar panels, right? 40,000 are there now. Should we get to 100,000 before we're like, that's a lot of slave children? Right? Like how many more Nigerians should live in without power because John Kerry doesn't think they should get a natural gas pipeline for the climate? So those are the bigger issues than just it's getting warmer where I live. Yeah, it is. Big context. And these are great things to talk about, right? We should be having cigars and brandy. These are huge conversations. And when you have a presidential debate, Mary, I'm sorry, I know it's your show. I swear I'll shut up. But
no, this is great. Go.
But when you have these presidential debates, 30 seconds, Mr. President. What would you do to fix climate change? Look how long this one answer was on this one tiny little issue. And we have presidential debates. 30 seconds. What is your plan to fix the debt? Are you freaking kidding me? I can't. So we need,
so
that's
true.
why this show is so important. We need space for deep conversation.
Yeah, no, please take as much time. This is why I love it. You know, these guys ask great questions. They listen to what you have to say, and I love that it's interactive. And I just am like the jockey. That's it. So please. Yitzhak says, coal, fly ash waste, rare earth discovery, the new game in town. Take the waste, clean it, and take out the REEs. Go coal. It's a pity Obama killed coal and Soros bought Peabody. So what do you think about that? Like taking waste, cleaning it. How viable is that?
That's the ingenuity of the private sector. You know, we talk about how we brought emissions down, if you want to play the emissions game, since the year 2000 by more than half. That was not because of government. That was because there is an incentive to be as efficient as possible built into the markets. So if you give the right incentives, the coal industry will do everything it needs to have as little waste, as much utility, as much, right? We don't need a big government to tell us how to do that. And Yitzhak, I appreciate you saying that's too bad Obama killed coal. Like I said at the beginning, that's why Power of the Future was born. We had thousands of happy little coal towns that were thriving communities where you made a good living and you married your high school sweetheart and you bought a house down the road and everyone worked at the coal mine. And we needed this reliable commodity for a stable electric grid. And not just that, but for steel and for cement and for industry and for rubber and for plastic and tires. Everything runs on coal. And then we had this Barack Obama who was like, as he said, you can't believe he said it. As he said when he was senator candidate in 2008, I'm not going to make it illegal, but I'll tell you now, if you own a coal plant when I'm president, you're going to go bankrupt, right? And everyone applauded. And so what did we do? We plunged tens of thousands of people into poverty. And what comes with poverty when you have that one little thing in town? If anyone grew up in a small town, whether it was a steel plant or a furniture maker in North Carolina or textiles in South Carolina or coal in Appalachia, then the whole town goes under, right? The diner closes, the flower shop closes, the school closes because there's no revenue for the school anymore. Your house is valueless because no one's moving in there, but it's the only asset you have, so you can't sell it. Try telling the bank it's valueless. The bank still says it's worth $300,000 and they want you to pay the mortgage with no job that you have. Depression goes up. Alcoholism goes up. Opioids go up. Suicide goes up. Domestic violence goes up. And then we turn to the state and we say, do something. And we make fun of Appalachia, a bunch of inbred. A bunch of inbreds. You married your sister. You're all poor. And we've done this to countless small towns, coal towns. But there should be a Power of the Future for ranching and timber and mining and textiles and furniture making, because a bunch of yahoos were like, you know what, we can do this elsewhere, right? We can ship we still use just as much coal. Here's the kicker, Yitzhak. We use just as much coal. We just pay 3 times the price for it. And somehow we applaud that and we're like, yay, we're green. And we've plunged thousands of people into poverty and we are paying a lot more for the same goods. And Barack Obama gets prizes and medals and built that monstrosity to his ego, that architectural.
That is hideous. That I thought that was a joke at first. So Rick says 99% of climate scientists believe that we are in global warming. Now, I don't doubt that that's true, although the hottest recorded air temperature on Earth was 134 degrees measured in Furnace Creek Ranch, Death Valley, California on July 10th of 1913. We had the Dust Bowl, back in the 30s. So I don't deny that maybe we're in a warming period, but I question, okay, but we've been in warming periods before. We've been in cooling periods. We had a mini ice age back in like the 1800s. There was a mini ice age and a lot of people died because of that. So I remember the 70s, didn't Time Magazine have the global cooling, right? The coming ice age was the 70s. They were like, oh, the coming ice age. I think it was like a penguin on the cover. Now it's, it's global warming. The earth changes. The earth is a living, breathing thing. and it changes, and you can't control the winds. You can't control El Nino, La Nina, whatever the hell it is, whatever. You can't control those things.
No,
And so they're going to ebb and flow, and that's that. So
at the time of the Renaissance, it was probably around 20 degrees warmer on average worldwide. And that's why there were vineyards all through the north of England. And it explains a lot of the wealth and prosperity and the greening of that period, right? At the time of the Vikings, Eric the Red told people to go to Greenland because it was lush and there were successful crops. And so we know there were warmer periods. We know there were colder periods. I mean, people talk about, as we're getting ready to celebrate our wonderful 250th, the winter of Valley Forge, really cold period in history, right? It was 250 years ago. It was significantly colder. So of course, we're in a warmer, colder. That 99% statistic is normally I see it in 97%. 97% of scientists agree that, fine. But it goes back to my earlier comment. It's not that is it warming, yes or no. It's that how much of it is caused by humans, and then how much are we willing to suffer to try to offset.
Right.
And I don't think the average person wants to not only not personally suffer, as we see from the John Kerrys and the Al Gores with
Bernie Sanders, AOC, flying private. Yes.
Bernie Sanders took a private jet on a tour to say, stop the oligarchy. Just think about that.
Yeah.
Think of that is as brilliant as the photo that we saw on the Sunday of the guy screaming that all people are welcome in New York as the Muslim terrorists literally, like, that's that level of insanity. Bernie Sanders on a private jet saying, stop the oligarchy. Amazing. Yeah. Amazing.
And I guarantee you that guy with the microphone still doesn't get the irony. Still doesn't get the irony at all.
They chopped down 8 square miles of the Amazon for COP30 back in November. The big climate conference every year is COP whatever.
Yes.
COP30 was in Brazil this year. They cut down 8 square miles of the Amazon to set up the grounds for it. These are the people that are telling us that we are going to die from climate change. So yes, 97% of scientists may agree, but remember, the people who exempt themselves from the rules are letting you know that there's no such crisis, right? If Nancy Pelosi can get her hair cut, if Gavin Newsom can go to dinner, then there's really no crisis.
Right.
They just want to enforce pain on you because they can.
Right. Exactly. Star Driver says the leading scientist for CARB, California Air Resources Board, had a fake PhD, and they still stood behind his findings. Hermit South says, I find it interesting that Greta Thunberg has moved on from being a climate change warrior. Yeah. Yitzhak was 4-H as well. Rick says global warming evidence proves that climate change is real, but like you just said, and these comments, we're like a half hour behind in comments. So,
sorry guys. Yeah, no,
no, that's fine.
The Greta thing is hysterical because climate change is not cool right now. It was way cooler to, hate the Jews. So Greta jump on that because that was the cool thing, right? Like free Palestine. So she was like, oh damn, I'm there. And then for a while it was Michigan, it was Minnesota, right? Like hate ICE. It used to be BLM. It was once at one point Occupy Wall Street. Right. So there's always like the it thing, but the climate people, they're just waiting for their turn. They'll be back. They'll be back.
They'll be back.
And
yeah.
They rotate through. No one protests climate in the winter. It's way too cold.
Yitzhak says daylight saving time sucks. Sun is up at zenith. That is noon. I hate it. I just want them. I don't care. Just pick one and let's just stick with it. I can't. Just pick one. Ted Cruz was on this for a while there about how he's going to pass legislation, and of course Congress can't do that because half of their constituents are going to be mad. But after a year, everybody's used to it, and it's no big deal because Americans have the attention span of 3 golden retriever puppies, and no one's going to remember in 3 months. Congress
is also though incapable of undoing things that they have done. Right? We hear every congressman talk about how we have to fix healthcare. So we're admitting Obamacare isn't working, but we can't repeal it, right? We're admitting that the daylight savings is not working, but we can't repeal it. Congress does not like to undo because I feel like they think it's an affront to their profession, right? Like it's chastising the noble elders who have gone before them. So they don't really like to undo crappy things. They wait for the courts to do it if necessary.
Yeah. By the way, the album was Bon Jovi Crossroad. Thank you, Ron. And yes, that is the inside of the diner I was just in today. And Tico was sitting in the booth that we were sitting in on the album. I think so is David sitting in the same booth. Yes. Okay. Let's see. They're talking about rack of lamb. This is great. I love this. This is so true. Gregory says Native Americans said that only the white man would cut the top off a blanket, sew it to the bottom, and say that the blanket had changed. It's very true. Let's see. Okay. Yitzhak says battery storage, molten salt, any good. SMRs, SAML, modular. He knows so much about everything. I have no clue what the hell he's talking about half the time. Yitzhak is very learned.
Yes.
Is safety issue as well? Not yet ready for prime time?
Small modular nuclear reactors. So let me give you the upside of them, which is the downside of fossil fuel generated electricity. Because they have downsides, right? Everything has it. We don't live in utopia. Everything has an upside and everything has its pros and its cons. I will always argue the pros of the fossil fuel greatly outweigh the pros of wind and solar. But one of the advantages of nuclear is that you don't need to feed it. If you have a coal plant, you got to get coal there. That's usually rail cars, right? If you have a natural gas plant, it's usually pipelines. If you have a nuclear reactor, you can put it wherever you want. You start a nuclear reactor by pulling the cord, right? Like a lawnmower. I don't know how you actually start. I mean, I know how they work, but I don't know how you actually begin. So you pull the cord and the nuclear starts and then it's good, right? You got to replace the water to keep it cool and that's it. So you can drop these puppies in the desert, in the North Slope of Alaska, in a native reservation where they're never going to get connected to a rail or something. So that is the upside and why we should support them aggressively. They have been deployed in certain areas. The best example is the United States Navy. And we have right now thousands of 18-year-old kids, boys and girls, who are sleeping on top of nuclear reactors. And we've been doing that for a long time. And we're doing subs. And we have a great track record. So we have all of the capability of running nuclear safely when you think of our military. Second thing I always say when it comes to nuclear, if people are concerned, the French get 80% of their electricity from nuclear. And I hate to play an old joke, but if the French are not afraid of nuclear, then the Americans should not be afraid of nuclear. So we should be building them aggressively and everywhere. I just saw the president or the White House tweeted earlier that the permission had gone through for a new nuclear reactor. And I thought, holy cow.
So yes, I was one of the things I was going to bring up. Trump put out on Truth Social, America is returning to real energy dominance. Today, I'm proud to announce that America First Refining is opening the first new U.S. oil refinery in 50 years in Brownsville, Texas. This is a historic $300 billion deal, the biggest in U.S. history, a massive win for American workers, energy, and the great people of South Texas. Thank you to our partners in India and their largest privately held energy company, Reliance, for this tremendous investment. It is because of our America First agenda, streamlining permits and lowering taxes that have attracted billions of dollars, blah, 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 blah. It will be the cleanest refinery in the world. It will power global exports, brings thousands of long overdue jobs. And he did not sign it off. Thank you for your attention to this matter. When he does that, I find it hilarious. He's like, we've just begun bombing Iran and our troops are going to do great. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
And this is one of the brilliant things, the mind-boggling, if you get into just like the nuts and bolts, the economics of energy, is this sludge, which we call crude, which comes from 18,000 feet below the Earth's surface. And you think of the processes of drilling and extracting and transporting and refining and transporting again. And you buy it at the gas station. And right now it has gone up. There's no doubt about it. But we're talking $3.25 a gallon. That's a bottle of Dasani water this size. And that bottle of Dasani water did not go through the process of drilling, of permitting, of refining, of extracting. It is remarkable how good the private sector is in that it can take something. Gasoline should be a fortune in the theory of it because of the processes and the steps.
Right, of how it gets there.
And that's the genius of the free market at work. It's amazing to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Hermit Sal says, my friend lives in the Philippines. He has solar panels and says that it's a disaster when storms hit and severe cloudiness occurs that blocks the sunlight. I can imagine, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
That's one of the downsides. Yep.
Yep. And Art says he lives near Waco. We drive by windmill farms that stretch on for miles. On very windy days, maybe one is slightly moving. Landman nailed how stupid they are. I don't watch it. It's
100%. So just out of curiosity, every now and then I will go on ERCOT, which is Texas's electric grid, and they do a great job of putting up all the fuel mixes and what's going on in real time. So in real time, March 10th, 1901 Central. So that is by military time. What is 19?
1918 is 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, 7:01.
7 o'clock Central Time, which is 8 o'clock Eastern Time.
Yep. So they are getting 3.8% of their electricity from solar, which makes sense. The sun is setting, right? They're getting 40% of their electricity from wind. And you're like, all right, that's huge. But they're only at about 50% capacity. And that's the point of when I say there's this delta, right? So you have all this great capacity, but you're only generating 50%. Whereas the other things that we are using are 90, 95% capacity because they work all the time. They don't need the wind to blow or not to blow. So why would I ever invest in something that doesn't work all the time?
Right.
Spouse or anyone else, right? You don't, or the Mary Walter Show. If you join it and you were like, you know what, every other podcast, she's just not there. You got to work it all the time. You got to work all the damn time. And
that's why I get great guests to do the work. I get great guests to do the work for me. This is awesome. It's great. And you are not disappointing.
Thank you.
I was worried we'd have enough to talk about, and this is fantastic. But I knew, see, Yitzhak again. Clinch River SMR just filed its EIS draft supplemental environmental impact statement. Should there be one for every sighting of SMRs? No idea what that means.
So your environmental impact statement is all the necessary paperwork you have to do to prove that what you are doing will not have, what will be the environmental impact. So even if you're building a commercial, you're building a shopping mall, what is going to be the impact of this mall, the construction, the cars, so environmental impact statements are tailored for what you are doing in the location that you're doing it. Wind and solar projects tend to be waived. They don't have to go through environmental impact statements because they're considered green. The fossil fuel industry is impact statemented up the wazoo. And as soon as they get the necessary paperwork, George Soros funds a bunch of pink-haired lesbians who start a group called like angry women against fossil fuel oligarchs, and they file a lawsuit and they're like, we need a new environmental impact statement, and it stops all over again. So should every group have to do an environmental impact statement? I appreciate the nobility of what you're trying to accomplish. What I hate about them is that they are used to weaponize to thwart progress, and we have to allow progress to happen. I know it scares people. I know everyone has their agenda. But we have become to the point that you can stop progress. Remember the what was the Supreme Court case just had its 20th anniversary? Little Pink House, Kelo versus New London. Right? We have to stop this ability that we can take over, and stop industries, whatever, because I just don't like it. And so I'm worried about EISs because they are weaponized aggressively.
Okay. Star Driver says, I don't know how many times I've been in Texas. The wind is blowing and the wind turbines are stopped and not working. Yes. Sal says, could windmills hide underwater drones approaching our shores? I guess the sound.
The reason why the president stopped it for wind for national security reasons is he did say they interrupt with radar.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm not a wind expert in terms of what they will do to mariners and shipping. I mean, I know the industry well, but what's its impact on radar and sonar? I'm unable to say. I just like the fact that the president is preserving the Eastern Shore. I grew up in Long Island, right? I mean, Queens, but spent my summers at Rockaway Beach. I don't want to see the East Coast covered in wind turbines. I don't.
No. Nobody does. That's why they're not off the coast of Massachusetts, because Ted Kennedy stopped them.
He did.
Like you said, double standard, right? Yep. When you look and see who's exempt, you know.
Absolutely.
Scott says 20%. He heard that 20% of U.S. power is from nuclear. How much of our power is from nuclear?
Um,
Do you know?
20 strikes me as a little high. If it is 20, that's great. I'm the exact breakdown. I thought it was a little less. I thought it was around 12, but if the number is
Okay.
20, yeah. And again, I would deploy nuclear as readily as possible. If I could have a little nuclear reactor on my farm, I'd be the happiest person in the world. The advantage of it, like I said, it is that it is off grid in the sense that it doesn't need to be fed, and it is reliable. Right. And you don't have
Yeah.
to worry about the wind or the sun or the rain. And when you need it most, that was what we saw with this last storm, the big one in January that devastated, especially. I mean, we got 2 feet here in Shenandoah, right? I have a generator. I got 1,000-gallon
Yeah.
diesel
So I
backup. I have to, right? But when you needed it the most, it was not working. We put out a report on powerthefuture.com. If you let me give it a shout out, it's called Frozen
Oh,
by
absolutely.
Fern. It is still on our homepage, and it was in real time what percentage of our grid was coming from what source. And when you need it the most, meaning to not freeze to death, wind and solar failed us. And if it fails you when it is most urgent, then I can't applaud it that it's working when it doesn't matter. It's like your
Right.
crappy politician. He'll take the easy vote, and you're like, "That's great," but this is the tough one, buddy. And they're like, "Ooh, boy." There's no awards for doing what is easy.
Yeah.
There's awards for
Yeah.
doing what is hard, and wind and solar can't do the hard.
Yeah. I will say at the Jersey Shore here, whenever the power goes out, if you open up, like you just open up the front door and all you hear is boom, 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 boom. And it's everybody's natural gas powered generators.
Yeah,
And, and ours, of course, is on a pedestal in the backyard. So with facing with a hole east west, so that when the ocean goes this way and the river comes in, like the water can just go through it. But we also have a gasoline powered one in case they ever turn off the natural gas.
yeah,
We have like a gasoline powered little one that Honda Vroom, that you
yeah.
can always power up if God forbid they ever cut off the natural gas, which would be bad around here. Manglebush, yay, Manglebush. The technology is not there yet to get off oil and coal. He's right, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. And I called my organization Power the Future because we may discover something. I don't hold out like this is it, right? We've maxed. I liken it to when Milton Friedman was saying the free market is the best of those that we know. He was even open to the fact that someone may come up with something one day. So Power the Future, I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, but
Right.
the geniuses who are going to figure that out right now are living a robust, intense fossil fuel lifestyle. And if we punish our now, we are not hastening a better tomorrow. Mary, you gave the great example of them saying, we're going to have all these great wind turbines. So to get them, we're going to shut down our nuclear and coal plants. It didn't hasten the green future. It just punished people
Right.
in the immediate. And so we have to stop punishing what works now in the hopes that will spur
Yeah.
us to betterness. It won't. It will just bring on misery.
Well, we're going to find out tonight how our helicopter pilot is going to balance the budget.
Oh, good.
So it'll be
Good.
great. Yeah. So I'm missing that. I want you to know I'm missing it for you, PayPal.
I'm guessing
I'll get the
taxes.
Cliff Notes. It'll be
I have a
a piece of
feeling-
paper.
I have a feeling, the rich are not paying their fair share. You can't even say it without laughing.
So you want to hear something about that? That's hilarious. So Bonfoni is shilling for Cory Booker. He beat feet and moved to Florida.
Yeah.
So Bon
There you go.
Jovi's, by the way, if you got like 42 million, you could buy his estate down the road here. It's a mini Versailles. He built it to look like Versailles. It's beautiful. I'm no shade on his estate, and God bless you, you can afford it. But he's shilling for the freaking liberal Democrats, and he moves to a red state. I'm like, typical
remarkable.
liberal
Yep.
hypocrites. Catch Bass, thank you so much. Let's see. Herman Sal says, I also hear that windmills are not that structurally sound.
No, they break. They break, right? Because they're moving things that are hundreds of feet high that are being pushed by the
Yeah, they're
wind.
huge.
And sails rip and rotors get, anyone who has a boat propellers get tangled up with stuff and they fall out of calibration. Whoever was your listener who quoted Landman, one of the lines that he says in that pilot is how much oil and gas is used, how much lubricant is in there.
Yeah.
So again, what are we accomplishing for the people you mentioned earlier, Mary? That your friend who has an electric vehicle says it's clean. I use the analogy all the time that your electric vehicle is as clean as my steak. Right? Steak has no emissions. It is totally green. And people are going to laugh and be like, well, no, idiot. The cow, well, that's the EV, right? The emissions are on the front end, and the emissions on the front end are higher than my truck emissions on the back end. And
Right.
so why are we celebrating? Again, get an EV if you want. I believe in freedom. I don't want to subsidize it. I don't want to give
Right.
you a tax benefit.
Exactly.
But if you're doing it, get a Tesla because you think it's really cool technology. Don't get a Tesla because you think you're saving the earth, because you're not. You're actually doing more damage than the combustion engine.
It's so funny. I have a hybrid, and it's not a plug-in hybrid. It's a, regular, it's a self-perpetuating hybrid. And it's great. It gets over 600. When I was living in Washington, D.C., and I was driving down on Sundays and then driving back to New Jersey on Fridays, I could fill up at the last gas station in the South on 295 off the Turnpike, because they pump the gas for you. And I don't know how to pump gas, and I refuse to learn, because that is the one benefit I get in New Jersey, and damn it, I'm taking it. And so and if you're really nice, like if you're a regular, they'll wash your windshield too. So I tip them. And I can make it all, but I'd fill up and I'd have over 600 miles to a tank of gas. So I could get all the way to my apartment in Chevy Chase, get to the radio station, which was like 4 blocks away, and get back home. And I could even make it I can make it to like the Costco gas station near where I live to fill up again.
That's awesome.
And it was great. But my husband, my brother's a Tesla. We have friends of Teslas. They love the technology. My husband's like, the technology is super cool. I don't want technology. I want roll down windows, like with a handle thing, because it's less stuff to break. I would like the bare minimum technology in any vehicle I drive, except for heated seats. And I would love a heated steering wheel. But other than that, I can live without, all the bells and whistles, because it's just, and I love my backup camera. I will say.
Yeah. Well, Toyota, who's the world's largest automaker, Toyota never went in on the EV stuff, and they got chastised pretty hard by the Biden administration, because they were pushing, especially the big three in America, they were pushing everyone towards electric vehicle. There were electric vehicle mandates. Joe Biden said by the year 2030, 50% of all cars in America that are sold had to be electric vehicle. How do you enforce that? No one knows, but that was his executive order. But Toyota always said, no. Like, we're going to stick with hybrids because there is not a market. And as soon as Trump got elected and all of those EV mandates and incentives disappeared, Stellantis went out of business. Ford took a $4 billion bath on the F-150. All of them have crumbled. Now, Tesla's still doing great. That's awesome. But the market has to decide that, not the president of the United States.
No, I agree. Yeah, and what I was saying with me having a hybrid is, my husband said if Tesla came out with a hybrid that you didn't have to plug in, he would buy one in a heart, like tomorrow, because he wants the technology. Like, he thinks it's cool and he wants the technology. The IT guy's a little nerd, but he's adorable. Maybe he'll make an appearance. He's going to have to make an appearance before the end of the show to say hello to Mike McVie, who asked for him, and his BFF Art. Speaking of his BFF Art says, our house was below freezing inside because we are all electric. We lit enough candles to start a cathedral. We toughed it out. Bleeping windmill farms were frozen solid. See, I live in an old house from the 1880s. And so this house, and it was a summer only home for the longest time. There's newspapers behind the wall for insulation that was put in like the 1940s, best we can tell. So there's no one's, and the windows are still the original windows.
Yeah.
So we do have storms on the outside, but every room is a fireplace. There's a big fireplace behind this American flag that is a wood burning fireplace. Every room has a fireplace. So most of them, well, I'd say half gas, half wood. Like in the bedrooms, we converted to natural gas, because I'm not big on an open flame in a bedroom. Not big on that. I think that was a little dicey. They were clearly better. They were more careful back in the day. And some of the fireplaces are summer fireplaces, so they're not deep enough to be able to use today. So we had to put gas inserts in those because you can't legally use them. And then we have some that are too big to legally use. So we had to put stoves in those as well. But we have a huge wood burning stove for occasions like this. During Sandy, we didn't have power for weeks. We didn't have power. right? I was never so happy to see an Ohio electric truck in my entire life. But we had the fireplaces to keep us warm. So I'm a big fan of having some kind of backup and not being reliant on just one source of power.
Yeah.
Like we have natural gas stove and oven. It's the stove is gas, the oven's electric, but you still have the stove. If anything, like I could still boil water and make oatmeal and hot dogs and heat up soup and those types of things. We could still cook on the stove top, and then having natural gas fireplaces and wood fireplaces gives us some diversity when it
Yeah.
comes to heating your home, and I'm a big fan of that. I think being reliant on just one source it's hard to do, and if you can diversify, I think you should.
Well, and you're getting into the larger issue of fossil fuels, which I love, is there is a human dignity factor, right? I call fossil fuels the great equalizer, because the birth of the fossil fuel movement and the Industrial Revolution, it created the middle class. And we're always going to have different classes, right? Bill Gates is always going to be richer than I am. And, Bill Gates, when he goes to Paris, he flies on a private jet and he stays at the presidential suite in the Ritz. And, I'm in row 37D and I'm at a little crappy hostel, but I can go to Paris, right? And when I stand before the Eiffel Tower or the Mona Lisa, it's the same Eiffel Tower and the same Mona Lisa as it is for Bill Gates.
Right.
And so that fossil fuel world has equalized us to a large extent. He may have more flat screen TVs and more phones, but I can also have flat screen TVs and I can have phones and I can have heat and I can have food that doesn't go rancid. This used to be the world of kings and lords and Downton Abbey. And suddenly your average Joe has the quality of life that was only afforded to the very, very, very rich. And so when it's taken from us, it becomes very personal. It becomes very impactful. And what's weird is I guess we're getting further away from those who remember. But any of us who are my age, like I said, I'm 51, our grandparents now seem ancient, but they remember changing cloth diapers, right? They remember not having washing machines. And so you say, well, I don't think we should have plastics. Have you ever had a kid with rancid, like really bad diarrhea? Let me know if you really want to get rid of plastics, because I'm telling you, you're going to love your disposable Pampers, right? And we can argue about how we dispose of it and we can argue about waste, but there is a quality of life. There's a hygienic. The best example I always give is when I lost my dad a couple years ago. And you take your work with you everywhere you go. But I was in the hospital room with him and I was looking at him, and in his arm, the little port that anyone who's been in the hospital knows, and the needle, thin and hard and non-toxic, forged from coal, and attached to that is a tube that is porous and non-toxic, and it is made from oil. And in that tube is a derivative of natural gas that gave Dad a peaceful death that Henry VIII would have dreamt of. And my dad was not a very powerful or rich person, but I saw oil, gas, and coal giving him a wonderful end of life experience. And that is what's on the line. And we can talk about wind and solar. Wind and solar is never going to make those things. And then people are going to say, well, okay, we have to have the Pampers and the that. But if we get rid of oil, gas, and coal, the that and the Pampers are going to become at such a price point that now they're only available for the Bill Gates
very wealthy.
and the Michael
Absolutely.
Bloomberg. So,
All right, Joseph Ricciani says it seems as if with credit card debt, which is going to hurt us more than mortgage default, this current generation doesn't seem to care what they spend. So they'll pay. In other words, like they don't care because, oh, I'm saving the planet, so it doesn't matter if electricity is, however expensive it is. They justify it in their brains, and I think he's right. I see that a lot because I'm old now. So I you kids. I'm keeping the ball if it comes in my yard. But I see it with a lot of them. They complain and then they don't have money. But then I look at like their Venmo, like with different kids that I Venmo money to, birthdays and that kind of thing. And I look at it and I'm like, they're constantly going, oh, for mojitos, oh, for this, oh, for that. And I'm like, you have no money, but you are out all the time.
yeah.
And it never enters their tiny little brains.
Debt is a terrible thing, and we've done a great damage to our young people with student debt. And yeah, I don't like the cashless society. It's definitely convenient, but we have created this idea that if you can put it on your credit card, you can afford it. And that's not, I mean, if you don't have the cash for it in your pocket, then the credit card is the wrong way to go.
Yeah. All right, we got to start wrapping this up here. Sal says it was socialist collective freezing in New York City.
Yeah.
Yitzhak says it's $3.25 a gallon in South Florida. Yes, but they don't pump it for you. Sue says $3.59 in Pennsylvania when I passed one today, Yitzhak, and said, ugh. But you know what? Compared to how easily we forget how much it cost under Biden.
Yeah.
Right? Like how Americans have the attention span of gnats.
Yeah.
You know, we so easily forget. Yitzhak, need weed whacking, Dan? Hire some prisoners from a local jail. Get the Chang gang. Wait, so do you know here in New Jersey, because I live on a state road, they do get the prisoners out to to do. You don't see them often. I don't know whether that program went horribly awry. I don't know, but you would see them more often. But they do like the what is that edging thing and with this little tiny. But yeah, great. I love it. It makes me happy.
Enjoy it too.
Yeah. Star says, I transport vehicles and some dealerships cringe when I show up to drive off an EV. Most are now ordered by people. They're not sitting on the lot. Yeah, that's right. Let's see. You have to be somewhere in Burlington County or parts south. I haven't seen it below 325 parts north. I don't know how much it is. Hey, IT, how much is gas? Come down here. Make your appearance.
If IT is going to make his appearance, I might have to say goodbye to mine so I can go check on my girls who are giving birth.
Okay, go ahead. Get going. Go take care of your sheep. Thank you so much. Say hello to the guests. Oh, you got the same shirt on you had on last time, and it's got a stain on it. Say hello to Dan.
Judge. Hi, Dan.
Hello.
Dan, thank you so much. You can follow him. Look for powerthefuture.com. Daniel Turner, PTF on X, all right, to follow him there. Don't go anywhere. And I'm gonna let you go. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. The best. Bye. Thank you. God bless. All right. Bye. All right. How much is gas?
I paid $3.15 to $3.19.
$3.19
at Costco, which was
at
most
Costco
other places
in Monmouth County. So
like $3.59.
yeah, everywhere else it was like $3.59. So it'll be catching up there. Costco will be catching up, right?
Maybe going down.
Oh, he says it may be going down. I'm not allowed to go out and get gas because he says it's not worth it because he drives right by the gas station, so I don't get gas. Let's see. Where are we? Oh, you got a present? Oh, an Amazon package. 2 Amazon packages. I swear remember when Radar built the Jeep on MASH? He's building an airplane piece by piece. What? He shipped the Jeep home piece by piece. He is slowly getting the pieces of an airplane here, I swear. Let's see. Climate people should be cheering Trump right now. I mean, look at all the greenhouse gas producing ships the Iranians had that he stopped and turned into artificial coral reefs. Did you hear Trump say, though, why didn't we? He goes, he asked, I guess, Hegseth, what kind of ships they were. And Hegseth, no, like, they were pretty nice ships. And Trump was like, so why did we sink them? Why didn't we just capture them? I was like, Trump is always thinking about ways to make money and save money, which I love. And Hegseth said, well, that would require, that's very dangerous for the men. It would require boarding. And he's like, okay. Oh, this is a good, you want to laugh? That has totally off topic. I love off topic TDS comments because they just have to insert Trump into everything. The Amazing Jacob says the Antichrist is widely believed to present himself as a figure of peace or a pseudo-Christian leader, initially to deceive rather than openly opposing Christianity from the start. That's Trump. Yes, Trump, who had the Eucharistic adoration in the White House this year. That's Trump. Trump, who invited a bunch of religious leaders to pray with him in the Oval Office and pray over him so that he would make the right decisions. I don't know. Like Obama kind of comes to mind, and Joe Biden, that really good Catholic who espoused abortion. Yeah. But I love when the TDS people have to insert Trump into everything. I don't know if that helps their TDS or if it just builds up and they have to just rage then. 1,000 years ago, same drought in the Mojave. Yes. Nicholas, great show and great guest. Thank you so much. Mangle, that was sarcasm, Mary. What did I miss? Sarcasm wise, Mangle. Holy crap, I'm sorry. What did I miss? That was sarcasm back here. The technology is not just there yet to get off of coal and oil. I think that was the one. I'm sorry. Edmonton is hot today, according to Sheikh Salah. Codification to find NEPA. Okay, that's way too deep. Climate changes all the time. Climate's changing. My climate is changing. It's getting to be spring. My hydrangea has like little buds on it. I'm like, no, little buddy, it's probably going to snow again. Don't bloom just yet. Stop. How do they think mountains and canyons at all were created? Climate change. Exactly. Yes. Stop building in flood zones and wildfire areas to minimize the damages. Yeah. But then you also have to stop building in tornado areas, right? So that's most of the United States. We have insanely crazy weather here. So we have extreme weather in this country compared to others. And I think it's just because it's so big and you have such wide open plains. So if you don't build in areas where there's tornadoes, flood zones, and what was the other one? And wildfire areas, what's left? Where's everybody going to live? Yes, the climate has been changing for millions of years. I don't understand what that means. We can fox the glove. I don't even know what that means, Mr. Doobie, which may go a long way in me not explaining. Oh, Joseph says, Jill Myra has been my adopted sister since 1970. Get the hell out of here. My girl, Jill. I've lost touch with her. I think she's in love, and I have lost touch with Jill. I leave 3 messages for somebody and then I'm done. But please tell her I said hello and I miss her. We had a shore house together, Jill Myra and I. If you're in New Jersey radio, you know who she is. Climate changes every second. Daniel's right. It's not a yes or no answer. Someone is making money, not us. Al Gore made millions. Exactly. Look at volcanic eruptions, Dennis says. What they've been doing to the upper atmosphere and acid rain. Yeah, exactly. But we can't control that. There's one that has nothing to do with anything, but it's not fun. Hermit Sal, hit the like and subscribe button, like button and subscribe button, please. I appreciate that, but she's not adopted. No, I know that. Just my baby sister's best friend. Well, tell her that I said hello, please. All right. We're getting out of here, getting warmer. Coldest winter I have seen yet, but not 2 days above freezing from the end of November till February. That is very true. Coal plants produce much less waste than Washington, D.C. Absolutely. All right. One of the reasons I'm planning to leave West Virginia is because there's not much here for our youth. They think West Virginia can rely on coal and tourism. Well, but I'm sure that there's also, there's other things that kids in that type of area can do. Heating and air conditioning, HVAC. There's so many trades that they can go into, I would assume. And also, you know what? Have a great idea. Start a business. Why not? You can do that anywhere. All right. I'm not going to, what is this? I don't know what that certified translator. I'm not quite sure what that comment means, and it's somewhat disturbing, so I'm not going to put it up. Art measuring global climate change. Birdie and AOC were on that tour. All right. Too many comments to get to, but thank you so much. We need to get energy somehow, Candace says. And I'm sure there's some comments here for the IT guy. I'll show them to him later if they're here. But wow, Cindy was here too. Thank you, Cindy Stewart. I didn't get to all the topics, but you got comments. Thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate you. So like Thursday or Friday, I'm supposed to be on Newsmax in the 3:00 hour, but that's been changing with the situation in Iran. They're booking a lot more, obviously, army, military people. So they're having the heyday, the military people, so not as much for the rest of us, the political commentators. I will be on Newsmax on Monday between 10 and noon, on and off, commenting on all the different segments. So you can catch me on Newsmax between 10 a.m. and noon Eastern time. I'll be there. And on Tuesdays, I'm on the Todd Starnes Show on Newsmax at usually 5:15 with Kay Smith Hill. And that's on N2. So if you don't have it on your provider, whoever you consume television with, you will find it. Just go to, if you don't have it there, then just go to YouTube and just type in Newsmax 2 live, and it will pop up and you can watch it there for free. Every Friday, I'm on the Rob Carson Show, 1:30. It's a phone in to his radio show. So just look for Rob Carson Radio on iHeart and TuneIn and all of that good stuff. And I'm there at 1:30. So that's it. I always post everything. Follow me at Mary Walter Radio on X and all your socials except Instagram, which I don't have because I need people, so I don't have that. So everybody, thank you so much. I really appreciate you all. And thank you for watching. And God bless. Have a fantastic rest of your week. Really appreciate you.